my name's Rasa Craig, and you are watching Legacy Faith Media. Today, we're going to be joined by my good friend Connie, who is a mom that just decided to homeschool her children in the last year. Thank you for joining us. I think it's really exciting to have somebody that switched from public school to homeschool, and you're so fresh in it. How long has it been now since you officially started with your homeschooling?
Oh gosh, it's only been 2.5 months.
Okay.
Yeah, 2.5 months. And thanks for having me on. I'm really excited to get to talk with you on this topic. So it's been 2.5 months, seems a lot longer than that.
It goes by pretty quickly. And I think you get acclimated to the homeschool thing a lot faster than you think it takes. So, and you have how many kids, Connie?
Four. I've got four kids. The oldest is 9, and then 7, 4, and 2.
So they're all about 2 years apart.
Yeah.
Which
it's crazy.
Yeah. So we'll get into that kind of crazy in a little bit, right?
Right.
We'll get to talk about that. So before we begin talking about what homeschooling looks like for you and the different aspects of it, I know that people choose to homeschool for a lot of different reasons. And so why don't you just share with us really quickly, what pushed you over the edge or make you decide to take that leap after your children have been in public school now for a few years?
So this last year, with COVID and everything, I feel like so much has changed. It's really opened up not only my eyes, but a lot of people's eyes to the world around us and what our priorities really are. So really for us, my husband and I both, it was a matter of reprioritizing. What do we want our kids to be learning? How involved do we want to be in their learning? What happens if schools shut down? And how much stress did that cause in the last year when we were constantly shutting down school, having to learn how to do things online? It was just too much for us. And we're like, there has to be a simpler way. We wanted to homeschool for a long time, but we thought it would be really difficult with our 7-year-old because he's just a different learning style altogether. So we were on the fence with putting him into school or should we homeschool and whatnot. So when it was just kind of chaos in the schools and trying to work from home and school and just manage all of these different aspects that we were all faced with, we're like, you know what, we're just going to give it a shot. We're going to try this homeschooling thing. Well, so it just became very apparent that it was time for us to take charge of not only our home lives and our children's upbringing, but also their education. And I really feel like that's the way it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
We're supposed to teach our children.
Absolutely. In Deuteronomy 6, it talks about that mandate to teach your children and bring them up. And when you lie down and when you rise up, when you actually decided that you were going to do it, were you scared, or what were some of your biggest concerns going into it with homeschooling?
Scared is probably an understatement. My biggest concern, though, my gosh, was definitely, am I going to fail? Am I going to be able to actually teach them what they need to know? So I really struggled, and I asked several people, how do I do this? Here's my kid's learning style. Here's, this, and this, and this. And everyone was like, just get started. That's all you got to do. None of that matters. Just get started. You know your kid better than anyone else. And I think that's what you had told me. You know your kid better than anyone else. So yeah. I was super feared, but that was my biggest thing. That was like, can I really do this? But
honestly, I decided to homeschool when I was 16, and even so before I had kids, before I was even married, I decided to homeschool. And when I had my first kid, I was still terrified to homeschool. I was like, oh no, am I going to ruin them? And I had the same fears. And that was not me, all of a sudden feeling forced into making this decision to pull them out of public school and start all of a sudden when it hadn't been something I was thinking of before. But one thing I've learned as a parent, and you've probably noticed this as well, is that children are hardwired. God made them to absorb information and learn. And so it's not like I'm working against his natural design. Teaching them to read wasn't as hard as I thought it would be. Although some children are a little bit more challenging than others in that in that area. But like you said, it's we know our kids better than anybody else. And so yeah, sometimes you just gotta jump in, like you said.
Yeah.
So, um,
The other fear too that I hear all the time is socialization. And
mm,
for me, that wasn't a big one. I will just say that there wasn't a big one because we have a large family, but I've had so many people that ask me, well, what are you going to do to socialize your kids? And I was like, really? Like, they're going to get like mom and dad time and like get to do tons of stuff with us. And I felt like that was social interaction too. And something that they didn't get, they're going to learn how to socialize with adults. And we've got a lot of kids and whatnot. And then there's so much to do in communities when you really don't have the constraints of an 8 to 3 school day. There's so much in your community that you can do, and there are so many other kids at them.
I don't know. It's a funny thing because so many people bring it up, and I don't know, like if they were trained to ask that question to people saying that they were going to homeschool, because it seems like this big question. But that was the reason why I chose to homeschool in the first place, and that's like another tangent. But when I met my first homeschool family, I was like, what is different about these kids? They can interact with like across a span of age ranges. Like they could talk to adults respectfully, they could talk to their peers normally, and they're like kind and considerate to younger children. And so like this is not what I'm experiencing in my peer group at like a public school. So
you form a whole different form of socialization that isn't limited to age groups.
Yeah. It's what the real world is like
yes.
you're socializing them for a real world environment that's not just limited to peer interaction. So I guess that would be building a case for homeschooling if that's somebody's fear right now. So let's get into like that transition to actually like homeschooling. I know a lot of people, they really struggle with like picking a curriculum because it just seems like 30, 40 years ago, I think that it was probably harder to find a curriculum. And then as the homeschooling movement grew, then all of a sudden you have this big like explosion of options. There's so many to choose from. And so then like, it's like, where do I start? And I remember I was like interviewing people like, tell me what to buy, just tell me what to get and I'll get it. And like every subject, what's the best math curriculum? What's the best this program? And like, just tell me and I'll buy it. And everybody that I talked to was like, you'll figure it out. It'll be okay. And I was like, just tell me.
that is the biggest thing you'll hear. Oh, you'll figure it out. Don't worry about it.
But now you're on the other end. You're on the other end now. You've already been converted. So
yeah, that was awful. I will say that's not an experience I ever want to relive. It was that first time trying to find curriculum because I overstressed about it. I did the same thing you did. I asked everybody, I interviewed people, and there were a couple people that after I talked to, I was mad. It was like, why won't somebody just give me a direct answer? And when really the truth is, there is no cookie cutter answer.
Just like there's like different children's learning styles, which would play into like what curriculum you pick. There's also different teaching styles. And there were certain curriculums that I had, like, even though they were really successful with my friends, it would kill me as an educator to use them because it would like limit my creative freedom. And I just couldn't handle working within that curriculum.
Right.
So we have to recognize when we're picking a curriculum, kind of what our children's learning styles are, what ours are, and like what is our family identity too.
And so we ended up finding a curriculum that checked every one of my boxes. And for this year, it was like that curriculum that I could just say, all right, I'm just going to pick this and we're just going to run with it. And pieces of it don't work, pieces of it don't work, and it'll be fine.
Yeah, I remember when I was talking to you, I was trying to think back to like when like what advice I would want to be given if I was trying to make a transition out of a public school setting to all of a sudden homeschooling. And I wouldn't want to be trying to like piece together this whole curriculum and trying to do all these different things. I just thought I would probably just want to pick like a box set of something that had all the subjects that I would need to cover and like already structured for me. And then like find freedom within it to shift things around if I need to as the year goes on. But I would just want my first year to be just like learning to transition to homeschooling, if that makes sense. So I think that's kind of some of the advice that I gave you, is just like pick something. And like you said, pick something and roll with it. At some point, you just need to pick something and do it. I think you said that earlier, right? Like you just got to do it. You just got to start.
Best thing that you can do, because about 3 weeks in, I was like, oh, no, like this isn't working. And so I was like, well, what if I added this, and what if I changed this up? And then I was like, why am I making this more complicated? Like, I just need to stick with it and see it through. And it's been, when you keep yourself in that mindset, it just goes a lot more smooth all together.
Yeah.
So,
No, I agree with that. Cause I'm an artist, I'm like creative, and I always want to like reinvent something. And I have to like, I always feel the Holy Spirit just being like, no, don't make it harder than it needs to be. Just
right.
just keep on. So that's kind of funny. We had talked about how like it's not going to be all sunshine and rainbows, right? And so there is a transition period that kind of takes place, and just kind of jumping into it, there are challenging days. Can you tell us about how that transition went for your family, and like some of the real struggles that you might have faced when you started?
Yeah, man, the most real struggle that I hadn't even thought of with the decision to homeschool was, we have a 4 and 2-year-olds who aren't in school. How do I work with a kid who's got dyslexia, and a 2-year-old who likes to destroy everything, and then a 4-year-old who also wants to be so involved and really is like at that point where he wants to learn. So that was a struggle. And it is not sunshine. Like, it is really not sunshine and rainbows every day. And I know we're only 2.5 months in, but I feel like we finally have a handle on it. Like, everybody, you fall into a routine. And for us, what we've done is we've been like, okay, if school doesn't start at 8 in the morning, school doesn't start at 8 in the morning. Maybe we decide, like this morning, we're going to make homemade cinnamon rolls. Let that be school. Everybody gets involved, everybody gets time together, and then we clean it up, and maybe we'll be doing math while we're cleaning it up or something, and it just works into the day. And yeah, we've had stuff spilt and papers ripped, and this art project was destroyed. It happens. And there's also been days where we've been like, nope, this is too chaotic, we're not doing it, and we closed the book on it, picked back up at 7 o'clock at night, and got it done when it was calmer. But that's the beauty of it too, because you can have all these blunders for life that happens, and you can say, nope, not right now. There's no point in stressing people out. It's not working right now, so we'll pick it up later. Fine. And so our curriculum too, we have 4-day weeks. So my kids, I have set the groundwork just to keep myself on track, because I still want a summer break for vacationing and whatnot, where I don't have to worry about finishing the year or whatever standards I've set for myself. So we have a 4-day school week. And if we've had like a really rough day, we've closed it all up. We actually had this day yesterday. I said, you know what? We're not doing it. I'm not fighting with anybody. This isn't going well. We're going to spend the day playing and exploring outside and just doing other things. Carving pumpkin, all of that. So we closed the textbooks and we went and explored nature and did that. And we will do Tuesday through Friday instead of Monday through Thursday this week, and we'll be fine.
Yeah.
And I find it great to have that flexibility.
So you talked a little bit about the challenges of just having little kids in the house. And I'm kind of like right there with you. And I have been there, because I feel like every single time that I have one transitioning into a reading stage, which, it requires like one-on-one time to teach a child to read. I also have these little ones that are also demanding attention. So it requires some flexibility. And something I've always told my older kids is like, I don't ever want the little ones to feel like they're in the way of our homeschooling. Like they're a blessing in this family. And so anyway, that's been like an opportunity to teach my older ones socialization. Proper socialization is like, how do we treat those that are younger than us? We want to include them in what we're doing, like make them feel valuable. So if it means, I'm doing one-on-one with this kid right now, so why doesn't older sibling over here go play with the little ones for a little bit, spend time with them so I can get one-on-one with them. And then when I'm done here, I'll do one-on-one with you while they go play with, and the little ones just love that, so we just need to be creative and think about, how we're going to do that. So that was one of the challenges you faced. And then I want to ask, were there any blessings on the other end of that challenge? Because just because, something is hard doesn't always mean there's not a blessing on the other side of it. So was there a blessing on the other side of that
Yeah.
seeming obstacle?
One of my favorite things right now is watching their creativity, because children, when put together, can come up with the craziest things, especially when you say, okay, mom needs to get lunch prepared. I need you guys to all play together. And I'll be like prepping the next activity or subject or something that we're doing, making lunch. And then they'll come back and they have like tied shoestrings to leaves and who knows? Like their creative minds are insane. And when you put all these age groups together, it is just such a blessing to see what they come up with and to just get to laugh. It has really brought so much joy into our house just watching all of them work together, teach each other, and then just be creative in the silliest ways. Kids are a joy.
They are. And I think, like there are the challenges, like like we said, it's not all sunshine and rainbows all the time, but there are sunshine and rainbows, like there are the storms and the storm clouds and the rainy days, but then there's the, like the sun comes out and you're like, oh my goodness, this is so beautiful. This is why I'm doing it. This is wonderful. And so, that was a good example of just like seeing them be creative together and go off to play and do something that they wouldn't otherwise be able to do if they're in 3 different schools during the day. Yeah. Is homeschooling what you expected it to be?
So I'm going to say no, homeschooling is not what I thought it was going to be, because I thought it had to be school at home, and it's not. And I even found curriculum that was still just simply school at home. But does it really have to be that way? Like, do I really want it to be that way? So I was kind of like, the person on one shoulder and the person on the other shoulder talking to you. I was like, okay, it has to be school at home. No, it doesn't, So I went into it truly thinking, all right, this is going to be like school at home. We're going to wake up at 8. We're going to start. And I know we'll get done earlier. But yeah. And no, it is, it hasn't gone anything like I thought it would. But it's gone better. We get school done, but only better. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like it's more fun, and they're learning different things. Like today, we made homemade cinnamon rolls, homemade pumpkin pie, which is part of dryer, and we still got all of our schoolwork done, and we did all of that by 3:00 in the afternoon, and they were all involved, all of them. And so I'm like, this does not look anything like regular school. And that's okay. For I can tell that they're learning. I can see where they're being challenged, and I can tell all areas of their personality where they're growing and developing. So, like, who cares? It doesn't look anything like I thought it would, and we're just going to throw that all out the window because we're going to roll with it how our family needs to.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's like the hardest thing to break from, because you and I like grew up in a traditional school and our kids have been going to traditional school. And so like breaking free from that idea of doing school at home, it doesn't have to be like, okay, from this time to this time. And I think it'll frustrate you if you have multiple children. Like if you have like 1 or 2 older kids and you're going to homeschool, maybe you can have a rigid schedule and routine and that'll work. But the reality with little kids is, there have been multiple times that I've tried to set like rigid schedules for us. And it's like, I had to come to this conclusion that my schedule is there to serve me and I'm not there to serve my schedule. So it's there to kind of keep me on track and guide me a little bit, but it's not there so that I could be like, oh no, we're missing the time. Like we didn't make our mark, and we're not going to get this in. And it's like, that's not what it's there for me to stress over. It's just there to kind of help like guide me. So, yeah, it's not school at home, it's homeschooling. And so we have that like freedom to be like, hey, this is life. Let's make a pie. This will be fun. You can measure this and you can measure that and we'll eat it later. And so that's cool. So what advice then would you have for somebody who's on the fence about homeschooling and just like struggling to make that final leap.
Okay, so my best advice, just do it. What do you have to lose? Right?
Especially right now when like people are like at home and then at school and then at home and they're
You're
missing out.
doing it anyway. I mean, what public school parents did at least for 4 months have to homeschool their kid? Like, you've already done it. You've literally already done it. But the beauty of it is now you get to control it. Nobody, if you made the leap to homeschool, nobody would be telling you you have to have your child on this Zoom call at this time. You would be in control of what goes on and when it goes on. But aside from that, too, just, I mean, my best advice is really just do it. You have nothing to lose. How much are your children going to gain by learning directly from you and the life skills that you've already obtained and getting to absorb themselves with what you're doing, how to run households, how to maybe work from home and learn at the same time? Like, how much more would you actually be giving them if you were showing them everything that you're doing versus them just being going from this class to this class to this class from 8 to 3 on this schedule? They're obtaining life skills that will take them so much further when you keep them with you and are showing them what you're doing throughout your day and how to schedule and how to function through life. What do you have to lose?
I love it. Yeah. Well, I am so thankful for this time that you chose to come on and share a glimpse into your new homeschooling journey. And I was just so encouraged when I talked to you the other day and you're like, I love it. It's wonderful. Because like, so we talked like maybe a week ago when I checked in on you just to see how things were going, because just like a month before I got a text from you and you were like, how do you do this with little kids in the house, and to see like how much of a difference there was from that like first month to even the second month. I was so encouraged that like, oh, she's like found her stride and, like you're figuring it out, and like we talked about early on in the interview. Hello.
My 2-year-old's about to crash this party. Yeah, that was that breaking the chain period where we figured out, how that it doesn't have to be like school. It is just, it's homeschool. We can incorporate everything. It doesn't have to be so rigid and strict.
Yeah.
So, this is Natalie, the 2-year-old. Can you say hi to Rafa?
Hi. So, all right. Well, I will let you get to your family and your little Natalie there. Thank you so much for joining us. And yeah, maybe we'll do another interview in a few months. These are going. All right.
Thanks for having me on.
Yeah. Thank you.